Most people, when making bee farms, they make lovely greenhouses where the bees can roam around free and interact with each other and smell all sorts of flowers. But this here is an industrial bee farm. Now you might be wondering, why do I need a bee farm? Well, it's for my end build. As you can see right here, I need 11,000 honeycomb blocks, and while my one upstairs in the tower is producing them slowly, it's just not fast enough, and I'll probably need them for future projects, so why not build an industrial honey farm? And I think that's going to be a pretty cool thing for today's episode. So currently this is my honey farm. It's not the best, but it gets the job done. There is a little bit of loss, as you can see. Not all the time it gets picked up. And this is what we're looking at. So we got a little bit in here, some more, and then we're just getting more honeycomb on its own. But this is just not fast enough. We need to upgrade our production. So in today's episode, we're heading right back to our industrial district so we can add one more factory to increase our honey producing capabilities. Now I've cleared out a nice little area right beside my first factory here where I plan to build in the honey factory. And in this factory, it's not just going to be the honeycomb, it's also going to be able to produce all the honey bottles just in case I ever need those. So first things first, we have to do a bit of material gathering. So I've set up a bunch of empty shulker boxes here. So we need to get our material list and start collecting. Alright, so our first block on the list is actually blackstone. So instead of deep slate, I went and I chose to go through a little bit of blackstone, and thankfully my bartering farm actually gives me some. You can see those guys are still actually gathering some. I did a little bit of AFKing at my gold farm, tossed in a bunch of gold into the bartering system, and now we're collecting a bunch of this blackstone, which I'll turn into the bricks. As you can see there, it's getting shot off. We'll show it off real quick. You can see they're being dropped into there. And once they're done, they'll drop it. Oh, it looks like they're out of gold. They don't want to drop those last little bits. I guess that's just them holding onto items, not bartering with them anymore. But that is this part, and it's nice and easy, just a little bit of AFKing. And the next block that we actually need a lot of is actually copper, and I've run out of the spare bits that I used for both those last two builds, but I've still got a bunch in my storage. Unfortunately, it's all into this state, but thankfully, for this one, we're not using the weathered, we're just using the pure copper. Alright, back to the nether really quick, just to work on my basalt farm, because I decided to use a little bit of basalt in this one. I had to change it up so I wasn't losing so much, but just a nice quick little basalt farm. Grabs me a little bit, and then I'll go smelt it down into smooth basalt. Alright, now that's all that's left is a bit of stripped of this spruce logs, not the dark oak for once. I decided to change it up a little bit. And then we're going to need a lot of redstone components. So things like hoppers, chests, comparators, redstone repeaters. So I'm probably going to have to go over to my raid farm to gather up the redstone that I've gathered so far because I don't have much left. And then after all that, we should have enough of everything to start building. All right, we've got our redstone gathered. A bit of honey when I do, where is it? These guys, when I bring them back down to the copper, not the oxidized, I can wax them back into place. Bit of quartz for all the comparators I'm going to need, and a couple bee nests just to start. I'll have to go and collect the rest from my tower, and probably make a bunch of the bee hives, not the nests, because I don't think there's that many in this world. Or at least I don't want to spend the next, I don't know, like 10 hours searching for another dozen or so more. But we got a couple more blocks to gather, but I think what we have here is enough to start, so let's get to building. And here we are for the most part. I'm still missing a couple things, like you can probably tell what this is going to be here. Nice little bottle of honey, but I don't actually have any of the honey. So I need to actually build the farm, before we can even get to actually finishing it, because I don't have enough of the bottles, because I didn't actually set that up in my tower. I only have the shears getting the honeycombs, which was why I could place those. This is a bit of stained glass I got to work on. I don't know the design I'm going for yet. Everything else is pretty much done. Those are just light gray, but with the continuity, it looks a lot nicer. Barely can even tell it's there. I've then gone with the packed mud on the ground, just give it like an earthy feel, and then all these dirt and grass bits I'm not going to do because the redstone's going on top of them. So the next thing we got to do is we actually get all the redstone together. And as you can see, I got 40 chests. I need over 300 hoppers. So this isn't even close. So I'm going to have to go back and sit at I was using a bit of bamboo because I do have that farm back in my base, but that's just not fast enough. I'm going to have to probably add that to the list of farms for a larger scale, a much bigger bamboo farm. So this is my current bamboo farm, and as you can see, it's not really producing enough for what I need because I need so many chests, and that's 16 more, and that's a long time waiting in this thing. So it's a really small one, so it only gets just enough that I need. So we're probably gonna have to just do a little bit of manual. And then after that, we're gonna have to do some relocation of these bees. So I'll probably wait until nighttime so that they're all in their hives and this entire thing's getting torn down. I guess I can salvage a bit of redstone from this, and I can even get the dispensers too. So that's kind of a handy thing. I don't need these guys back in here anymore because it'll be much larger over there. This might cover, I don't know, like a quarter, maybe a third of all the beehives I need. And then after that, we can go and make some of the manual ones, the man-made ones. All right, after a bit of collection time, we have started the redstone. So here you can see it's just a basic honey bottle farm. So this one needs a little bit more redstone than the honeycombs just because you need a full honey, like all 3 bits of honey. So it can have 1, 2, or 3. And once it reads 3, the comparator shoots out the redstone signal back here, and it powers up to this line, which then hits the dispenser with the glass bottles. And that'll give you a full glass bottle because I got hoppers running underneath, and that'll empty into a honey bottle into there. So now all I have to do is bring this all the way across. It's going to be all of these, basically from there up until here. Just slices of that. You can see it kind of comes forward here just because I couldn't remove this copper here just the way I built it. So it gives it a bit of depth into it. And then I copy onto the other side. And then down here in the center is where we're going to get the honeycombs. But that's a little bit harder because I put them up in the air a little bit just to fill out the room a little bit more because that's kind of a problem I have. I never like fill all the way to the top. You can probably tell if we went over to my farm over there, the rocket farm. Can't actually see it from here. And we can kind of see it. The entire upper bit is just empty, and that's something I need to work on. So we're going to have to copy this over all the way, and then on the other side, and then we can start work on the honeycombs. All right, and both sides are in, so this is my honey bottle production area. And as you can see, there's a little bit extra on top that I didn't show before, and this is the loading system. So it'll be hard to get to all these dispensers once it's all in place and all the bees are in these guys. So I set up a loading system. So all I have to do is fill this chest with the empty bottles, and it'll empty into every single one on both sides. It's literally thousands, tens of thousands of bottles I'll have to do. So we're going to have to empty another desert, but that's for another day. So all I have to do now is get all the flowers in. I guess I forgot to put those in whilst building. I got one on each side to start with, but I got plenty of poppies probably just sitting around outside. There's a lot of poppy patches, so I'll just steal from there, or I might go over to my iron farm and collect the overflow. But next big problem I have is I have to get all these bees. So this one has 3 out of 3 in it. I have to get the bees into these areas without them just flying around. And since this is very open still with these big holes everywhere, even this door that I'm not even going to fill out, it's going to be hard to get them in. So I'm going to have to look up a good way of actually getting them in without letting them out. So it'll be like I have to maybe do it at nighttime, but then I'm probably going to have to disassemble this entire thing and get all these back. I didn't really think of that at first. And then maybe fill these all up somewhere else in like a breeding area and then bring them back in when it's nighttime so they're not going to come out. All right, that's something to worry about later. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to finish building first. So next part is the honeycomb part, which is a lot bigger because that's something I need a lot more for these guys, which are going to be going into the end base. So let's quickly build that up. By quickly, I mean quickly for you, not for me. Let's go. All right, and before I go inside and show you everything that's been done, guess can't see it over there, but it's going to be the next part is the honeycomb farm. So it's a little less redstone. This one I had to adapt from my video where I talked about the smallest farms possible. And for this one, the only difference was I had to have, so let's grab a block so I can actually stand up there properly. I had to replace this piece that used to be redstone with a repeater because when you have multiple along each other, it wasn't powering your dispenser with the shears in it. So you just have to replace this one with a bit of repeater just so that the line actually goes in because this one doesn't need all 3 charges of honey for it to get a honeycomb. So basically I have an observer reading this guy, Anytime even a single piece of honey goes in, the observer observes it, sends a signal, powers, and then it shears it, then goes down into your hopper, into the line. So now let's go take a look inside. So as you can see, this one is a lot bigger. I also added all the detailing and got all of those beehives out of there. The honey, I don't even know what they're called. What are they called then again? I don't even know because it's not the nest, it's the beehive. So basically, once I get them all, I'll place them in these spots, and I've got all the flowers and all the detailing, and I got a couple tanks just for looks that I'll fill with the honey once I start crafting it. But getting back to the honeycomb part, so I've got a lot of storage because this is the one that I'm going to need a lot more of. So if we head upstairs, I got some railings I've installed. So how it works is it's just both sides have it, and I actually have enough room to place one more repeat of this entire thing on top. So after I get some production in, then I'll put them in because that's just going to be so many more bees, and I don't think I've got enough time for that in today's episode. So like these chests over here, this chest will load all the shears, which will load all the dispensers, and it's the exact same thing I just showed you out here, just repeated on both sides. I guess we'll free cam it, and I'll do the exact same thing with all the beehives inside these areas on both sides. It's put up a little just so it's a little bit different and just wasn't aisles and aisles of the same thing. Just wanted to make it look a little different. As you can see here, they're all placed in with the redstone ready to go. These hoppers are actually for the next part. I actually designed this already. I'm like Matica-ing it. So this entire thing will just be basically copied and pasted right on top of each other. And these guys will also bring down into our storage down here. So now all that's left for this episode is finishing off the last little bits of detail for this, and then the stained glass window at the back. And then we have to gather all of the bees. So let's go set up, I guess, a bee breeding farm. All right, so we're back at the tower, and I'm gonna disassemble this entire thing now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get all the bees out of here. So if we break this with the silk touch, I guess it's gonna go through there. So we're gonna have to chase it along with the hoppers. Most of them are gonna fall into here. And as you can see, these are all full. This one was the previous one, but we're getting lots of them. So let's go along and clear all of these. And then I'm gonna have to move, or I guess start breeding them up, because I don't think this is enough to fit into all the ones we need. So let's do that quickly. All right, all cleared out, and we have 21. So there's 20 in here, plus that extra one I already had with 2, and they all actually have 3. So thank you, Past Me, for filling these up at maximum capacity. That must have taken ages. It's been a while since I made this, so I don't really remember, but with that many, we should be able to do a good start on at least some of them, and then we're going to have to, I guess, craft up a bunch more of these, which are just basically honeycomb and a bit of wood. So not a problem there. But the problem is I need to transfer them out of these ones, or I guess make more. So I guess I'll set up a breeding farm closer to. Wouldn't make sense to do it here. And then we can kind of worry about getting the maximum amount into each of the bee hives. All right, so here we are back at the factory, and we've got a small little greenhouse I'm working on to transfer all these bees into the hives opposed to the nests. And how it works is, how I'm doing it is I place down a bee hive or a bee nest, it ejects them since it's during the day, and then at night they'll go into these guys, so I gotta make sure there's plenty of them for them to get to. And whilst I'm going, I'm gonna start breeding them as well to get as many as possible. And then I toss the empty ones back into here, grab a new full one, and then at night these will all be pretty much full. I'll be able to check with my silk touch. The ones that aren't, I'll leave in here. The ones that are, I shall take into the factory where there is plenty. I did a quick count just now. We have 20 here, 20 there, so that's 40 producing the honey bottles. And there are just currently 32 producing the combs, but it's going to double. And once we make a second layer, that'll be another time, probably not today's episode, but that'll be 64 creating the honeycombs. That's why we have so much storage. And then for these ones, occasionally they also put an empty bottle. I don't know if that's a problem with my redstone. Probably is. But the problem, I can just easily fix that when they ends up in here. Item elevator back into the starting chest and just have it infinitely cycle. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hang around here for a while up until basically the last second I can until the end of the recording time I have for this episode. Get as many as I can in. We'll see it really quick before the end of the episode. but we're just going to do a lot of this, breed all these guys up. That's actually just flowers. Use these flowers if we can. That'll save a lot. Ooh, so these guys want it. Yep. So we're just going to breed these guys up like crazy, get as many bees in here as possible. And, I mean, is this full or is it just honey? Yeah, it's just honey. We don't care about the honey currently. Actually, is it 5? Do they hold more? No, it's the same amount of honey. I thought these guys held more honey. But that's basically going to be the plan for the rest of the episode. And once we start making enough of the honey bottles, we'll be able to fill in our logo right here. And maybe even the stained glass in the back, just quickly just throw something in until I get better inspiration for something else. But that's how we're going to do for the next little bit. So the next clip will be at the very end of the episode, seeing how many bees we actually got. All right, and here we are. We've gotten quite a few in. We've got the 20 on this side, as well as a couple more, just 4 on this side boxed in. I'll have to replace this glass. And I also changed the redstone a little bit around. As you can see, I've swapped the comparator with the block, because occasionally the honey would shoot out behind on top of the comparators. So I think the block stops that and forces it to the front, which is why I have a little rail track down below. I'll show that quickly, which is the hopper minecart going back and forth. So if anything lands by these flowers here, it'll just pop onto there, and then the hopper minecart will grab it and bring it out here. So for just running as we went, we've got a little bit of honey here, and let's check out over here. Okay, so we can make 5 blocks of honey, and then we get the bottles back, which is great. Which means we can just toss these up in here, and it'll slowly distribute. One downside of this part is it has to fill up this first one before going along. So I'm going to need thousands of bottles of glass, which means I'm going to have to do another desert trip and create a lot more glass for the glass bottles. But I think that's good, as well as we have up here. We've gotten the 16 on this side. Looks like this one might not have a shear in above it, so we'll have to double check all of that. But it's making some good honeycombs, which we can turn into the blocks, which can be used for decorating in here, as well as the end island build. I also went around, if we just walk back here, 5's a little awkward for that, just a little bit of glass, stained glass work with a little bit of the, I just did like an auto shade, tried it out, didn't look the best, but it's something to keep that in. And then all we have to do is now finish off the logo at the front. I still have some more over in the little greenhouse over here. Just slowly breeding them up. Flowers every time it's daytime. I come over here, grab some more. When I fill them up, I make sure I leave at least 6 in here, because the more you have, the faster you can breed them up. But I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode. It was a really productive episode, getting more progress not just for the world, but also for the End Island project, which is really exciting. I really want to work on it. I'm just kind of held back by the materials I don't have. Oh, that's a skeleton. Let's run inside. It's safer to do the outro in here. But that's where we're going to end it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.